Enniscorthy in County Wexford is another area that would have seen sustained and perhaps arguably successful activities by the Irish volunteers in the course of the Easter Rising outside Dublin. Unlike the events in Ashburn though, and indeed events in Galway, what happened in Enniscorthy was relatively non-violent. Separatist Republican groups had a presence in Enniscorthy since 1913, 14, 15. The Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Irish Volunteers, Na Fianna Éireann. The volunteers in Enniscorthy, as other places, had split, but the Irish Volunteers were actually a stronger group by 1914, 1916 than their Redmondite rivals in the Irish National Volunteers. In September 1915, Patrick Pearse had addressed 180 members of the Irish Volunteers in Enniscorthy, and under the leadership of a man called Peter Paul Galligan from the locality, the Enniscorthy Volunteers had become quite active thereafter, training, drilling, and even attempting to make weapons. For example, using explosives taken from quarries to make kind of homemade bombs of some type. The early days of the Rising in Enniscorthy were quite confused in the aftermath of the countermanding order that had come the previous weekend. On Wednesday, 26th of April, Galligan went to Dublin, went directly to the GPO and was told to go back down to Wexford, go back to Enniscorthy and to disrupt the rail line that ran from Rosslare to Dublin, on the grounds that this was a natural means for troops to get into the country and by extension to make their way to the capital, to the centre of the fighting. On the Thursday morning, the Enniscorthy Volunteers took control of the town and did so in a fairly peaceful manner. They were reluctant to actually get involved in fighting with the local RIC and instead tried to blockade the RIC into the barracks in order to force them to surrender. Now there were some exchanges of gunfire, but on the whole Enniscorthy was a remarkably non-violent place considering what was happening in Dublin. The volunteers policed the town, they set up pickets, barricades, made a point of closing down pubs. I mean, one historian has referred to the events in Enniscorthy as essentially a carnival without the alcohol, and they exerted a kind of control over the town for about 4 days. So in terms of seizing territory and holding it for a period of time, you could say the Enniscorthy Volunteers were far more successful than many of their counterparts elsewhere. There was an attempt by some of the Enniscorthy Volunteers to leave the town and to try and capture Ferns, but as news came in that events in Dublin were turning against the Volunteers, and as the surrender in Dublin was confirmed on Sunday, people such as Galligan, Robert Brennan, who was another of the volunteer leaders in Enniscorthy, incidentally the father of Maeve Brennan, the New Yorker columnist, they decided that the game was up and they decided to surrender. The British forces in the locality had taken a very kind of hands-off attitude towards what was going on in Enniscorthy, and local notables were able to broker some kind of ceasefire. The fighting in Enniscorthy, well, that's an oxymoron. There wasn't really any fighting in Enniscorthy, and just as the volunteers' occupation of Enniscorthy had gone off fairly peacefully, so too did their surrender.